Kyle, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are being a content writer and copywriter. I thought that I would love to have you on my show because now that, everyone is on the digital space and we're getting lots of people on LinkedIn and trying to build their brand, it's so important that we stand out. So I think your domain and your career is really something of importance. So thank you very much.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Very humbled to be a participant on your show. I will correct you with one thing. I normally don't write content for clients. It's just copy. The only content I write mainly just for myself and my personal brand.
Fantastic. I would love you to walk us through the differences because I think people need to be educated and empowered within this section if they're trying to perhaps partner with someone or purchase someone's services, for example, but they're not even sure to be navigating this domain. So yeah, I'd love you to walk us through it.
Sure. The best analogy I can give is actually very simple. The content would be the food at your restaurant. So people come to your restaurant to eat the food because they enjoy it. The copy would be the writing on the sign that would bring them to the restaurant. So in this case, if you're writing social media content, that's literally what it is. It's content. Yes, there is copywriting involved with it because you are creating content and all content does have copy in it because you're writing, but the medium is different. With copywriting, the entire purpose is to make sure for your client that you're producing a profit for them. And that is really the end goal. Of course, some people look at that as a bit dull, but it is something that is important for any business because without profits, you do not stay alive. And that is the sole purpose of copywriting. It's salesmanship in print. Content is about brand awareness. So you're building a brand and you're building a reputation. And that's what content does for any business. So both are important, but content doesn't close deals normally. It just gets people to inquire about your business. And then, of course, from there, your copy, depending upon what medium you may use, I could just use a couple of examples. Email, landing pages, sales letters. Those are strictly for people that are looking to buy. And when they land on any of those promotions, that's what the copy should do. Direct them to buy, explain all the features and benefits of the product or service that's being sold. And content definitely doesn't have that mechanism.
Fantastic. I love it. I really think that this is such an important topic to be exploring, especially at, the C-suite or aspiring leader level, because, these days we're not flying to as many networking events. We're not going for after work drinks as compared to what we used to, or certainly things that are back on track, but not as, to the level of what we were. So, getting noticed in the digital space is something I think quite significant, and every thought leader or subject matter expertise, individual should be concentrating on. I don't know, what do you think is working within the market? What type of copy, content, sort of all of this type of digital footprint? What's working in the market where you are, with your clients or perhaps where you're based?
I will say that there are two concepts when you're writing, and one is fear of loss, of course, or fear of missing out. The other is hope of reward. So depending upon what industry you're in, one works better than the other. They both work, but if you want to really generate the best results, if you're in the health and wellness industry and you're looking to market to people who are trying to improve their health, the best thing to do is provide them hope of reward, because they're not thinking about 3-4 months or a year down the road, am I still going to feel this way? They're thinking about how can I get a solution now? So if you provide the hope of reward for them, whatever the benefit is of, say, a supplement or maybe a personal trainer, then they're being shown that they have an option to change because they need that professional help. In my industry, in the financial services industry, fear of loss is a much, much bigger motivator than hope of reward. People don't believe in outlandish claims about making money. I don't care who it is, especially if they're trading stocks, for example. They don't want to hear something that says you can invest in these stocks in this industry and you're going to make a ton of money. It's not something that people fall for, because stock traders know you have to have a framework that you follow in order to make sure you're investing in the right stocks that will yield you a return over time, whether you're going short or long. So fear of loss in terms of not getting into the stock at the right time to either shorter, or maybe you're doing a short squeeze or going long term, is what would work with people who are traders, as an example. And it's something I see quite frequently throughout my industry.
Yeah, right. Fantastic insights. And what do you think? I know that within my own audience and domain, there's a lot of talk about the blockchain, cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
3.0. Do you think that this is something of interest and people are picking up on this to be able to then implement it perhaps across the board? Because obviously blockchain can be used outside of the financial sector.
Of course. Sure. So I'll say this: blockchain technology has a extremely bright future. Just give you an example outside of financial services. Right now in shipping, you have something called a bill of lading. You can't ship anything without a bill of lading. And before, it had to be a physical copy. And it took a lot, it's a long process. It has to go through a number of different jurisdictions and bureaucracy. So it wasn't easy to ship something from one country to the other because it took a long time, no matter what it was. Now that from blockchain technology and having an e-bill of lading, it's cut down the time tremendously. So it takes a day or two as opposed to, say, 15 days as an example. So that is one big change for blockchain. And there's all kinds of different applications for blockchain. Cryptocurrency, that will stay. However, one thing that concerns me is the fact that it is heavily unregulated, as is the art world, for example. So if you're selling art, those two industries have basically no regulation from government. So what I see happening down the road is government will intervene because they'll find out that there's money laundering, terrorist funding. There could be, unfortunately, sex workers being trafficked there as well, so human trafficking. And the government doesn't want any of that to happen at all. Even though this is going to be controversial, there are branches of the government that support it, because if they didn't, it wouldn't occur. However, the vast majority of people in government do not want that to happen. So they will intervene, I think, and that will cause a big shift in how people invest in cryptocurrency. That's why even now it's so volatile, because the only thing behind it, just like the American dollar, is the support of the people. There's nothing that's backing it. So I think that will be a big problem down the road, but it's not going anywhere. It's going to continue to grow. And with Web 3.0, that will also be a huge thing. It's going to be something that people are going to have a big investments in, whether it's NFTs or personal avatar, and be part of that digital space where they can actually buy land, they can buy real estate, anything that you can basically get in reality is what the metaverse will have. So that's not going to go away. That's definitely going to continue to grow. And it'll be a whole different business world in about roughly 10 years. So this decade from 2020 to 2030, it's going to show a ton of transformations in every industry, because everything will go digital and it's going to be an entirely new world.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on that point. I think, the likes of, say, for example, LinkedIn or Twitter, perhaps if people have got their YouTube channels, there's a sort of a bit of a thirst for complexity. So, when the digital space is so saturated with, you're scrolling through your social media, you want to be able to somehow, I'm assuming, and please, walk me through this, but create some form of story, because this type of complex information, and we don't have anything to compare these things to. There's nothing to compare crypto or blockchain or, it really in comparison. So it's hard for the reader to be able to conceptualize, and then there's nothing to compare it. So I think to be able to engage your audience on these mediums, you need to be storytelling on a consistent basis. Would you agree?
Absolutely. The main proponent of copy now is going to be story, especially through email and SMS. SMS is growing rapidly, and that's more of a direct line to people, and you don't tell stories through SMS, but in order to get them to give you their phone number, you have to tell stories through email. And I've found that that's the best practice, is actually getting their trust via email and then getting their number and then marketing to them towards SMS, and just basically asking a very direct question about, we have this project coming out, this is what it does. If you want it, click here, essentially. And the numbers have been good. I've been seeing some statistics and they're improving. So there have been other methods people have been using as well, story-wise, to try to get SMS working outside of email. Hasn't worked yet, but I'm sure there will be some advancements there, and there'll be a different methodology they're going to use. So with storytelling, the headline is the most important thing. It's just having something that's going to captivate the reader's attention, that will speak to their emotions, their pain points, and that is directly connected to them. So a lot of people I see, they may have a headline on LinkedIn or any social media platform, and it's not speaking to either their ideal customers or people they want to engage with their content. So then they may end up falling on blind eyes and deaf ears, and they don't have the traction they want. So that's the first thing. You only get one chance to make a first impression. In this case with copy, it's how is that first line going to make the person feel, and are they going to engage in reading more? Because each line is designed to have the person read on, and that's the main factor when you're writing copy.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think this probably links to the importance of having the right audience on your LinkedIn. So for example,
Yep.
Some people, and it's fine, I have been one of them back in the early days, where you literally would accept every single person on LinkedIn connection request, which, it's fine,
Yep.
building your brand, etc. But then all of a sudden, the content that you start putting out doesn't resonate with the audience that you've actually got. So therefore, you've got a mismatch from your audience to the content, and therefore perhaps if you're trying to drive business or engagement or whatever your own internal KPIs are for having the platform, actually, they're not in synergy. So I think that would be the important thing, to be putting the content out for the audience that you've got, and then measuring what's working,
Agreed.
what's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the process. So it's connecting with the right people first and foremost, and then secondly, making sure that those people are there to view your content, because a lot of people will just connect with you to do it. So you want to connect with people that are interested in what you have to say and your brand. So one thing I look at a lot, especially now with impressions, is just seeing what industries mainly are looking at the content I'm producing on LinkedIn. For me, it's mainly financial services, which is exactly what I want. As well, it's marketing and advertising, which is another sector that I would want because it's what I'm doing. So those are the two top. And then the next would be information technology. And I don't really know why, but there's a lot of people in IT that like it. I think it's because in that industry, I know that the copy is quite complex a lot of times, and it shouldn't be. It should be just very, very simple, direct, straightforward. And I know people who are in that market, that's their niche, and they tell me that they see some very horrendous copy on their day-to-day work. So I guess that may be why they're just looking to find maybe new tactics, techniques that they can use to improve their copy for their brands, because IT is a very technical space, and you want someone who has no background or experience in that industry to go to your website, understand exactly what you do in 10 seconds or less, essentially.
Absolutely. And so what do you think that, as the spaces are, I guess I'm probably repeating myself here, but saturated, we get more and more people on connected, the likes of the emerging markets, Africa, etc., being connected.
Yep.
El Salvador, the South American countries being online. And, and I guess the growth within the digital space is certainly expanding, which is fantastic. But then it can become difficult for thought leaders, business owners, and then perhaps even job seekers to be standing out with their USP.
Yep.
So what do you think, do you think it's important to be having pieces on LinkedIn, or, how can you begin to stand out on a consistent basis with content?
Yeah, so you have to have a framework, first and foremost. Initially, what I did when I first got on LinkedIn was I was kind of posting off of intuition. Yeah, it did work, but it wasn't that effective. So each day you should have a theme that you follow, whatever that theme is. I'll use what I do as an example. So there are about 3 days I just tell a story, and then I relate that story back to copywriting, email marketing, something that I do. So there's a lesson there. And that actually is probably the most effective way to begin standing out and building your brand, because people want to know about you. They don't want to know about your technical skills so much, initially anyway. Later on, of course, they want to know that you're competent, but they really want to discover who you are. So you have to be able to tell your stories and not be afraid to reveal whatever vulnerabilities that you may have experienced and the emotions that you felt, because that's what really connects people. I mean, we are hardwired for storytelling. And then I would also recommend, other than maybe 3 or 4 stories a week when you're posting, it doesn't matter which platform, is to have technical posts. So in my case, I write very technical posts about different email marketing tactics, landing page tactics. And that is what helps people understand, okay, we know this guy, we happen to like what he's putting out here because of the stories we heard. So now we want to see, is he able to deliver the results we want as a copywriter? And they see that, and it builds trust. And as well, I would also recommend having at least a day, whether it's going to be each week or every couple of weeks, that you put out one post that has clients praising your work, because that's one thing I think a lot of people don't do, because they don't want to be braggadocious. They don't want to be put in a position where they feel like they're being arrogant. However, testimonials build trust very quickly, especially if you're new and you quote from a big authority. I mean, just as an example, I had a man who's an A-list copywriter, and he's been doing it for over 40 years. And he has helped me a lot because he's part of my email list, and he has taken some of the content from the email list and promoted it to his list, as well as given, of course, my credit and put it into some of the books he's writing. So, and he has a huge audience. So when you're doing something like that, it really helps. And if you were to name an authority like that, people immediately trust you because this person has a track record. So that's extremely important to include in your content, at least, if not once a week, at least twice a month. Because if you don't do that, then people are not going to really trust you, no matter how many stories you tell, no matter what kind of framework you follow strategy-wise for content. They're going to say, okay, it all sounds good, but people are naturally skeptical. I mean, I had a guy today, a financial advisor, and he says, I know you write copy and I want to work with you, but I'm really skeptical. And I said, I understand. You should be skeptical. I said, I'm skeptical about everything. And so I just walked him through the process that I follow. And I said to him, it's not wise to start an entirely new campaign with me if you're skeptical. What is wise is taking what you already have, your automations, your emails, then I can fine tune them. And that way I can change your results for you. Because one thing about email is it can boil down to even just changing 2 or 3 words sometimes. And you don't change anything else, they offer nothing. And it can be the difference between it being a flop or a hit. And I've seen that happen so many times. So it's just rearranging the structure of the copy, and then maybe just changing a few things, and that really sets things off for a lot of people.
Amazing. This is really, really fantastic. I think you've given us some nuggets, some good. Yeah, it's fantastic. So I guess I would love to, leave the audience with some of your services. What do you offer as yourself, if you are offering B2C or B2B support?
Yep.
And where can people find you? Because I think that you're certainly someone that needs to be, well recognized within this space.
Well, I appreciate that. I aim to provide as much value as humanly possible. So they can find me on LinkedIn at the moment. That'd be the best place to go because they can, of course, view the content, and also my portfolio is there, if I'm not mistaken, so that they can look at that. My LinkedIn is just very simple, linkedin.com/Bell Copywriting, all one word. You find it that way. As well, I would say I focus mainly on email marketing campaigns. That's really been my bread and butter. However, I do write landing pages, sales letters, and then the occasional direct mail package if someone needs a promotional campaign offline. Of course, there are a plethora of things I can write copy-wise, but those are my main focuses that I like to write because I understand the format and I enjoy doing it. For example, I mean, people do come here and there. They may want a press release done, or they maybe want, let's say, a magalog. That's another offline promotion that's not as popular anymore, but it's still something that clients do. I will write those kind of things, or white papers, for example, but it's not what I specialize in. So those first 4, I would say, direct mail, email marketing, sales letters, and landing pages are what I prefer to do.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Yes.
Kyle, you have just been really, really amazing. Thank you once again for your time. I look forward to keep connecting, and I'll put your link to your LinkedIn in the comments below, and people can reach out to you.
Sure, I will send it to you now so you have it, because I know there's a specific format that you have to use for LinkedIn. Yep.
Super. Thank you so much, Kyle.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.